lovelies, and welcome to Juliet's Sewing Life. Today we will be discussing how to decode a commercial dress pattern. We're going to be talking about how and what all those little marks mean, and we're going to be giving you a PDF download so you'll be able to check that out along with this video. So let's get started. Okay, now we're on to the cutting layouts of our little thing, cutting layouts right here. And so the first thing it says for folded and double layer fabrics. Place fabric with the right sides together. So this is the pretty side, so this would be how this would look. So we're doubling it up and we're placing right sides together, and that's exactly as that would look. And it says pin pattern on the wrong side of fabric. So you would pin your pattern on the wrong side of the fabric, and that's how that would look. And of course we got the single layer, which is exactly as it sounds. Usually you use a single layer when it's like a nape or fur or corduroy or something like that, and this is one single layer, and as it says, pin your pattern on the right side of the fabric. So now you would, well, it would be like this, and you'd be cutting it twice, one here and one here, because single layer. And of course it says, quite obviously, before you remove all your pattern pieces, make sure that you've got all your markings, everything has been transferred from the pattern piece to your fabric, so you know where you are. Also we have number 10, which is the key, which is a shaded version of that, and it's a pattern printed side down. So how that would work is, so normally you cut out right sides together. Most patterns are right sides together, salvages at the top, fold line at the bottom. So what it says, with your pattern side down, so this is the right side of the pattern with all the markings at the top. This is when it wants me to actually put it on the side down, so you no longer can see all your numbers and stuff, or you can see it through the paper but not on the paper, because the pattern, the pattern piece is laying down on your fabric. Got it out. And number 11 is the key with a white side, and this is for your pattern piece to be facing the right side up. So in this case we would put it right here. If you can see the numbers and the words the right side up, and that's how you place your pattern piece onto your fabric. And number 12 is the star, and that basically means cut all your pieces out first that are to be placed on. The pieces that have marked with a star, that piece it wants you to fold out your fabric and then cut it out, because it doesn't need a double layer, it doesn't need two to be cut out, it only needs one. So we want to maximize the use of your fabric. So that's number 12. And bringing up the rear, number 13 is the key. It's like a little snowflake. That means that the fabric has got a nape. Now what that is basically fur or corduroy or anything that's got a texture to the top of the fabric. This has no texture, it's cotton. There's no one way it folds or one way it lies. It's just fine just the way it is. But corduroy or fur or anything like that, that has got a nape. So you want to make sure that it's all going in the right direction, and so you put your piece this way, because your skirt's going to be hanging like that, so you want your nape going that way. If your nape was going that way and then you put your skirt this way, you're moving upwards. It's not going to hang right, it's not going to fold right. So you definitely, that's what that means, is smooth out the fur, smooth out the pile, and then wherever you smooth the pile out, then put your pattern piece on top like that, and now we can cut through and it's going to lie perfectly. And now we move on to the final section, which is the sewing directions. And the first thing we see is a key, 4 boxes at the top. So let's start with that. The first one says right side of the fabric. well, the right side of the fabric is the pretty side of the fabric. So this will be the right side of the fabric. So when you see that key with that shade, then you know that you should be looking at the right side of the fabric. When you see the white clear box, and let me see if I can find that here. There you go. That is the right side. This white box here is the right side of the fabric. Oh, that box there is the wrong side of the fabric. It would be that way. Well spotted, you. Okay, so now we're on the wrong side of the fabric, which would be this. This is your wrong side of the fabric. And now the next box along is interfacing. Let me move this to one side. Interfacing can come in so many weights, so many colors. This is another interface here. Both of these are lightweight. These are both lightweight. And what you do with interfacing is you would take this and you would iron it. There is a sort of adhesive. It's kind of bubbly. You can feel the texture. That is the part that you would put face down on your fabric. Then you'd iron that on. Iron that on. Make sure that it's that side down because you want it to stick to your fabric. Then what that does is it gives it a much more sturdier weight to it. As you can see, that's nice and fluid. This is more sturdy. So that's the interfacing box. Move these out the way. And then the next box with the little dots is your lining. If you're doing skirts or half a dress or coat, then that's your lining box. So that's the key on how to understand the boxes. So it says pin or machine base seams matching the notches. So I've got my wrong sides. Let's match those up and let's match up those notches. Oh, that's a tiny one. Where are you? There you are, one notch. Yep, that's one notch matched up. Match up the second notch, that's another one matched up. Then you can pin more if you like. I don't like to pin that much. Just like so. And then it says stitch 5/8 the seam allowance. So let's take our little guide. Oh, I can't pick that up. Let's take that little guide. We find our 5/8. Match up that seam. Oh, it's obviously a princess curve. Right, okay, so let's match up that seam. 1 to there is 5/8. So let's do a little, there's plenty of ways to mark up your fabric. This is a friction pen. That means that once the heat hits it, once I put the iron on it, it will disappear. So you can use something like that, but always test on a scrap piece to make sure it does disappear before you put that on your real work. Always test before you use it on your real work, because you never know, some things might be. So I'm just going along, might not work on some fabrics and you don't want to ruin your work. So I'm just going all the way down, all the way to the end. So all this, I can't sew it in a straight line business, you can take care of. So, and then you could just start here and then draw a line all the way down, matching up all those notches. Now you have a sew line. Isn't that neat? Love that. That's, this little thing is perfect. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this to the machine and I am going to stitch along here. Then we're going to press, and I'll press the seams open. So here we are at the machine. Got my lovely FS130QC Brother machine. I'm using stitch 00, so 2.5. And I have a video on this machine, so you could, I'll put the link at the bottom and you can see it. So what we're going to do is we've done the pinning, we've done the marking of 5.8, so we know that we are absolutely hitting our seam allowance. And now we're going to stitch. So you just aim up your needle with that 9. I don't really like that there, but that's fine. I'll just take that out straight away. Right, and then you just start sewing. Just stitch right down that line. Just get that pin out. Oh, that's right in the way, that is. There we go. Okay. Just keep following that line. Take your pins out before you get to them. Right on that dotted line. Alright. Now you can back stitch if you want at the front. Needle up. Snip to your fence. Right, so move you out the way. So you've pinned, we have stitched, and now we're going to press.